Hi, I'm Molly.
And I'm Jamie, and this is our From the Pasture with Hired Hand podcast. As the owners of Hired Hand website software, we've been developing websites and creating internet marketing strategies for livestock breeders for the past 10 years.
The majority of our customers are involved in the breeding of registered animals, such as Texas Longhorns, Highland cattle, horses, and white-tailed deer, where the pedigrees are very important. The From the Pasture with Hired Hand podcast examines many of the differences in raising pedigreed livestock for maximum profit. Join us and learn what we're covering today.
Today I'm here with Marcy Nall and Ariana Parkinson of Lady Lillian's Longhorn Ranch in Fay, Oklahoma. Hi ladies, thanks for joining us.
Hey,
Good
thanks
morning.
for having us.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and start by telling us a little bit about yourselves and how you got started in Longhorns.
So we got started in Longhorns in the 90s. Our grandpa purchased some. He was an old-fashioned cowboy. We even have a picture of him in the woolly chaps with his horse and a pistol. But so he started us out with a couple of head that he bought from a neighbor. And then we just continued that on, and then later went into the beef side of the business. So, and then about us, we just work together and figure things out as we go.
How long have you all been doing this together?
Forever.
Yeah. Yeah. We both, of course, been raised on this family ranch since we were born and just always been around horses and cattle. I guess we started doing the beef thing, started selling natural beef to the public probably 10 years ago or so.
2009.
Yeah. Well, a long time ago. But I kind of like to, Marcy and Mom kind of do more of the paperwork side. I do the most of it. Well, things have changed a lot in the last few years, but I like to do all the, I guess, the work, the muscle work,
She knows the animals.
yeah, yeah, because we're all actually gotten to where we all do all of it the last couple of years. When we first started, Marcy was, of course, working full time at an awesome career, and I was kind of not a floater, but I do guided trail rides, also work in a newspaper, so I've kind of been very blessed that I haven't had to have a committed full-time job in a long time. So that allowed me to be able to have time to, when we first started the beef business, to help the folks out, building fence, fixing fence, loading cattle, delivering beef, helping Mom with the beef orders. But in the last couple of years, we've kind of all had a hand in that. So that's kind of been nice. But it started out where I was just kind of the work, the muscle, and Mom and Marcy kind of did some of the paperwork side. And Marcy's really taken off the past 6 months or more, maybe about a year now, wanting to really
Build on what we already have.
Yeah, kind of try to scoot it up there with the website and a lot more social media. And that's kind of allowed Mom and Dad, they're starting to want to retire a little bit. And so Marcy kind of jumping in there and going full steam ahead this last year. It's been interesting. It's kind of been exciting to watch somebody get us re-excited about our Longhorn venture and our communications as far as getting our product out to the public and kind of letting people learn about us a little more. And it's kind of been a breath of fresh air. So that's been nice. But yeah, we've been doing it for about 10 years. And we actually have one Longhorn cow that's a daughter of some of our grandpa's last couple of Longhorns. They probably got into their 30s. There was 2 of them left from Papa's herd. And they had their last calves, lived long enough to wean them, and then passed away. But we still have one of them left. So that's kind of neat to see her out there running around.
That's awesome. What sort of bloodlines does she go back to? Do you know?
We don't know because Papa didn't run registered, did he? So we don't know. I believe she may have some of the
Wildlife refuge?
Yes.
She's off a wildlife refuge.
Yes.
That's very cool. And is there a picture of her on your website?
We don't have anything that's not papered on our website.
Okay. So she just has a forever home on the ranch and sentimental meaning for sure then.
Yes. Yeah, we have several that are full-blooded but not on our website. But
Well, you all have mentioned your beef program a couple times, so let's start there. Let's talk about what made you want to get started, some of the lessons you learned when you started, and kind of where you're at today, and then we'll go through and see if you have some advice you can offer others.
So in 2009, I was working on a degree in sustainable agriculture and landscape design. And in the sustainable ag classes, people were constantly talking about food and produce and where you get good quality things, that you know how they were raised or treated or grown. And so one of my classmates was asking about, the beef that we have. And she asked if we'd ever be interested in selling anything. And so that's kind of what stepped us off into that. And so we followed up with the state and found out what we had to do to get that in place. And then we made our first sale to her. And so after that, we started loading up deep freezes and hauling to farmers markets when it was 105 out. And so we built up a pretty decent clientele from there. And then Mom and Ari started hitting some more of the farm to market groups in some of the bigger towns. And they started putting together big enough drops in Tulsa for a group. And so they were able to do like whole beefs at once. And then like they dispersed it out to whoever bought into that basket or whatever at that point. And from there, we kind of got to back off going to the farmer's market, and then people started coming to us. And so that's been really nice. And so that's probably what we've done for the last 10 years is people just come to us. We didn't have to do the farmer's market very long. So
did you find that step intimidating when you switched from kind of doing the whole beef and letting others split it up that way versus going to the farmer's market and selling the individual packages essentially?
That wasn't too bad because we offered it that way the whole time. But it was a lot less work for us to have to weigh out every single package and do that. So definitely less work.
So were there any hiccups along the way from when you contacted the state to when you got to where you are today?
The biggest hurdle there was just there's different departments that do different things. And so just getting the right people on the phone and asking the right questions of what the requirements were, that was probably the biggest hurdle.
Did you have any challenges when it came to your labeling process? And, I assume that you want your brand or your logo and your information on there, but there are rules with the lockers and the USDA. Tell us a little bit about that part of the process.
So we did some of that, and Mom fortunately had worked with the food industry before, and so she had a lot of experience with labels and rules. And so we stepped through that and got a label that worked. And we, after the beef was delivered or we received it back, we would then label our product. But the actual state label had to be on the packaging as well. So
our butchers, they put their USDA certified label on there. And so when we receive it, it's already got it on there. And then, of course, like she was saying, we'll add our label as well.
With our logo.
Yeah.
Have you all had any supply and demand problems?
We definitely adjust our butchering to demand. And really, there was 2 years that we had pulled a bull off the herd because we had got such a herd built up. We were over 100.
Yeah.
Pushing 2 probably.
It's hard for us to let go of an animal. We love animals a lot. We all have a big heart, but we finally reached the point to where we're going to have to sell some heifers. We're going to have to reduce the herd because it's, we love all animals. But we've got control of that. And, I forgot.
So after that, we had a little bit of lag where we didn't have the right size steer to take to market. But it didn't take long to overcome that and go back to normal.
No, so we usually can fill an order. If somebody wants beef, we usually can fill it. If not, they may have a short wait period, which would be maybe a month because we like our beef to hang for 3 weeks before we bring it home. Like the butcher will hang it for 3 weeks before we bring it home. But we usually, I don't think there's been very many people that weren't able to get an order in promptly.
And we kind of just adjust our advertising for what we have ready based on, season and timing and things like that.
So you mentioned that you like yours to hang for 3 weeks. Are there any other specifications that you cover that you feel like maybe sets yours apart a little bit more from your competitors?
People really like the vacuum seal. Shouldn't give away, I guess, secrets or whatever, but the vacuum seal is a big deal. And you also want to have a butcher that does a really good job of sealing those packages. One of the butchering places that we have been going to for a while, there was a short period where they didn't get a real good seal on it. I think they had some change of hands, change of workers, and that was okay. We handled it, but that's a big thing. You definitely want to have a processing plant that does a really good, solid vacuum seal on there, and people really like that. And I believe it lasts longer that way too. Mm-hmm. So that's a big plus is vacuum sealed. That's really nice.
And getting a good butcher relationship is pretty key, pretty crucial.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Would there be any other advice that you have, especially for maybe our listeners in Oklahoma where the rules and everything would be the same?
So, the rules have changed in the last couple years, which makes some of it a little bit easier, especially if you already have your purchaser, on there before you go to butcher. So just jump in and give it a try, follow the rules, and you'll be okay.
A good rule of thumb for anyone wanting to start selling beef, people often ask, well, how much beef is it? How big is it? We try to tell people to think of those like 33 gallon black trash bags and a quarter. Our beef, of course, is Longhorn, so it's a lot leaner. They're not going to get as much as a quarter of your Angus. But we try to tell them to kind of put in mind that 33 gallon trash bag. Imagine that pretty full. 2 of them per quarter, so that way they kind of understand how much room they're going to need in their freezer. A lot of times I think, hey, I'm ordering half a beef. I'm going to need this huge, freezer, and they don't. But that's kind of a
customer education is a hurdle too.
Yeah. And that's great because our customers have all been pretty good. But that's a good rule of thumb is just have them imagine those black trash bags, and that kind of lets your customer know how much room. That's something we learned.
That's a good visual for sure. Well, let's shift gears and talk a little bit about your registered herd, about your cows that are on the website. So specifically with those, how did you get started? Who were some of the first that you purchased and anyone that helped you kind of with that part of the breeding program?
So our first registered cattle came from LV Baker with Safari B. And that was probably late 90s. And then, and we kind of Papa ran them with a mixed herd, and the Longhorns were kind of just for nostalgia. And then, we ended up not having a bull. And so in 2006, we went back to LV Baker to get a bull, and we brought home Alfred.
Yeah. Alfred Lauren Tennyson. We called him Al.
He sang to the ladies' poetry when he got out of the trailer. Yeah. So, and so we bought several from him over the years, and that's kind of where our registered stock started.
Is there anyone else that helped you get started or who has given you advice or, contributed along the way?
Yes. And there are so many people that I have just getting into like the sales side and the fraternity side. I've just picked somebody random off of the Facebook groups or that I've seen their hired hand website and just started messaging them, just random questions. And so John Heber with H&H Cattle Company has been the greatest person to deal with. And he is so kind, and I can call him and be like, I think I have some dumb questions, but I'm going to ask them anyway. And he always has time. He's such a wonderful man. And I actually just decided, I'm going to go just meet some of these people face to face. And we loaded up my mom and my kids and I, and we went down to the legacy sale. And that was a wonderful event. And that's where I met him, and we hit it off. And he actually just accidentally sat by me, and I'm like, hey, and we just started visiting, and that's how that happened. But he has been wonderful to deal with. Also, Randy Baker with Safari B. I've asked him lots of questions. He's been a wonderful helper. And then we got some more cows from him this year. So
nice. Do you have a favorite in your herd that you've acquired?
Oh, we have lots of favorites. Right now, my most favorite is barbecue and whiskey, and mostly it's her demeanor that does it for me. And then my other favorite is Plum Pretty. She's 20 years old. She's one of our most original animals on the place, and she also came from Safari Bee.
She's a sweetheart and she's beautiful.
Yeah.
She's pretty cool. You saw me light up because that's who I was going to say would be Plum Pretty.
So you mentioned when we were talking about how you got started, you mentioned your grandfather. What was his ranch name?
I guess he really had one. No.
Did he have a brand or anything that he used at all?
They did have a brand, and I don't know that they used it when we were growing up, but before we were involved, I think they probably used it early on, but not at the end.
Mom?
4S.
Huh?
It was 4S.
It was 4S.
Had to ask the queen of the family there, right?
Matriarch. She's supervising back here.
Yeah.
So do you think you would approve of Lady Lillian's Longhorn Ranch as the new ranch name?
I think he'd be very happy with what is going on and just the things that we're maintaining and keeping up and making better.
And where did you decide to get that name from?
So when we started selling beef, we just knew we had to come up with some kind of name. And before that, we had been rocking F with my dad. And so we kind of wanted something that reflected back on the family history, the history of the ranch. And so we were downstairs in the basement at Mom and Dad's just talking. And I was like, well, what about Lady Lillian's? And everybody got goosebumps. And we were like, yes, that's it.
Because our granny is Lillian Joanne. And it just, the name got thrown out there. And I don't know how the lady came in. And you said it, Mom said, I don't remember for sure. But that's kind of where that came from, was her name was Lillian Joanne. Everybody called her Joanne, but her first name was Lillian. And the ranch has been handed down generation to generation through the maternal line.
And the original matriarch was Lillian.
That's very cool. I feel like that definitely, that story, sets you all apart, because that's usually not the case, is that it's handed down through the maternal line. It's women, haven't typically had that role. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And she took over there was 10 siblings, and the original matriarch took it on and passed it down from grandkid or daughter to daughter all the way down to us. So here we go. So like the original home place, my sister lives in the original farmhouse. It's over 100 years old. We're part of the Oklahoma Centennial Farm and Ranch. And then she runs her Old Caldwell Trail stables out of the original barn. And so it's really cool because you can see the beams are like hand cut, and it's pretty awesome.
And our great-great-grandpa built the barn and the house, and they lived in a dugout while they built the barn, and the house came a little later. I got that right, Mom? Yes. I always feel like I tell it wrong, but and a lot of people that I take on my trail rides, even some Oklahomans, they don't know what a dugout is. So I get to explain to them what a dugout is. So they lived in the dugout, built the barn, then built the house. I believe the barn's probably 1893, 1894. Excuse me. And I remember Granddad, Papa, was guessing the house built maybe around 1903 or something. And Mom, just yell at me if I get anything wrong, because he had found a brick or something on the corner of the house one day, and it had something on it, 1903. But that's kind of what Papa was thinking. So they're both very, very old. But as she was saying about the barn, when you walk in there, sometimes I'll point out the beams, the poles to the guests, and I'll actually show them the little cuts, because you had to, had those things, and you just jerked it down, and they cut them out. And we kind of think the poles may have been a structure beforehand, before it was the barn, just because there's some notches that are cut in each one that kind of are, indicative of it may have been a building prior. So who knows how old those beams are, but it's really neat. The old barn, it's pretty neat. It's one of the very few, I think, left standing in Oklahoma.
And it had, cutouts for like milking cows where you'd squeeze their head, and they were wooden, and they had wooden latches. And so we still have that too. It's really pretty neat. So cattle history all the way back.
All right, so that leads me to two follow-up questions then. The first is, now you have to tell everyone what a dugout is, because I think I know, but I may not be right. And then the second is, what has been expanded upon at the ranch today to kind of keep it up to modern standards and keep up with your herd and your beef program?
I'll let you take the first one.
A dugout is back when the settlers and pioneers of the state, and it's probably prevalent in other states as well, but I'm going to get my Oklahoma history wrong, so I'm not going to act like I know it all. But they would dig into the side of a hill, especially if maybe it kind of had a little crevice or something. But they would dig basically a cave back into the hill, and then they would prop it up with poles and beams and put wood across the top. So you have a man-made cave, and then, like I say, they'd use wood and posts and things that they would have to cut out themselves. So that way the sides wouldn't cave in, the roof wouldn't cave in. I think they generally had a piece of canvas or something as the door, and they would live in there.
Until they got their houses built.
Yeah.
Because it was quicker.
So that was a dugout. And I know in 1933, people were still living in dugouts. And I only know that for sure because I did a murder story, a triple homicide that happened in Fay back in 1933. And when the murderer broke out of the Tologa jail, he ran across the river and into someone's dugout. So people kind of lived there for a long time, and they hold temperature very well, like your cellars. They kind of almost stay the same temperature year round. So right now, you're better off going down in the cellar to stay cool than trying to be in the shade tree above ground. And then in the wintertime, they're warmer. But that's what a dugout is, and people did live inside them until they could build their house. And back then, you didn't have a whole lot of trees, so lumber was not easily available. So I'm just assuming over time, a couple of years, it might take them that long to get the poles and the boards and stuff cut, because there weren't a whole lot of trees, 120 years ago.
Love what you're hearing? Be sure to check out our Pickup Truck Confessions. It's a video series where we hop in the truck or rental car and interview a variety of breeders about what drives their passion for their livestock, how they got started in the breed of their choice, marketing tips, and more. And now, back to the podcast.
So as far as improvements on the ranch, there was some pens at the barn that were wooden, and so we've replaced those, and she's got the horses for the stables there and runs it out of there. And so she's now got full panel metal pens. And then we also have cleared a lot of the pasture of the eastern red cedar. It's a huge water pest. They take a lot of, So we've cleared a bunch of land from cedar growth. And so we keep up with that. And that's a regular maintenance thing for us. And then we put in a lot of new fences because 100-year-old fences don't hold cows very well. And then we have also added 2 Longhorn working arenas and the working squeeze chutes and all that on 2 separate pieces of property here on the ranch.
So there are special chutes specifically designed for Longhorns. They I can't do it with my hands, but they'll have 2 sides. So just pretend this is horizontal. And so you can open it up like this, or you can open it up, I guess it'd be like this. So you can have them both. I don't know. Anyway, both sides open up so the big old horned animal can get in there, and then you can shut it from both sides. And that way they fit, because a lot of your other chutes, some of their horns are just too big to go down the middle of it. But there are special chutes out there for Longhorns.
When in the past few years, or when in your growth, did you decide it was time to invest in a special chute?
Oh, when we got to accidentally go for a ride on one.
I feel like that's the most common answer, so don't feel bad at all.
Yeah, we started out with a lot of just the original pens, the one across from the home place. I remember Mom and I were fixing to load some steers up to go to the butcher, and it was a hog panel pen. It wasn't very big, and I think we put in a few of these 16-foot metal panels just to kind of help us make this chute. And I remember this one. I wrote about it, but he had jumped, like a deer, right over the panel. And I just kind of looked at Mom, and we were like, well, okay. But luckily we had another steer, so we was able to get him in there. When we first started, it was pretty crude pens. We used the horse trailer to haul them to the butcher, so that was an adventure. And when we decided maybe we'll try to put a sliding gate into the back of the horse trailer gate. That worked for a little while until the slider caught, and I ended up busting the top of my finger off, like the bone inside.
Oh,
the
wow.
bone inside off. So at that point, I think it was probably Mom, we're not doing this anymore, blah, 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 blah. So we took Papa's old stock trailer, and Mom went and had a new axle put on it and painted a new floor and everything, and that's been a lot better. So it started out pretty crude, but we really have, I'd say, top of the line, some of the best pins, compared to a lot of like other people we've went and helped or whatever, that we have really pretty nice equipment. We've got the working tubs, the special chutes. We've got panels now, several different side pins that we can save this steer just in case one jumps, or if we're going to sort heifers and move them Saturday, coming real handy. So it started out, we get to laugh.
It was the Wild West.
Yeah, we get to laugh like, how did we do that? Oh my gosh, I can't believe we did. It's amazing what people can do if you just put your mind to something and you just work with what you have and go for it. When I first started doing trail rides, I didn't have saddle stands. I had my trails cut, but I didn't have anything fancy. Started out, you just do it. And then when you get to a place where you can make it a little better, go for it. But if you can't do that at this time, it's okay. Do the best with what you have.
That's probably the biggest piece of advice to anyone starting out, is to just make do with what you have and don't be afraid to just continue making things better as you go.
Everybody has to start somewhere, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. And God has blessed us with plenty to start with, so we've got our hands full.
So now, Marcy, I'm curious. Ariana got to laughing there about one of her memories. What's a funny story you can share with us, or one of your favorite memories?
So everybody probably remembers the early Farmers Only commercial, and we were out putting out hay, and the cows and the bulls are just fun to watch together, and really funny. And so, it's pretty crude, but we call it the golden showers, and the bull turns his nose up and sniffs, and it's really funny. And so I took a video out the window while we're putting out hay of the bull in a golden shower moment into the Farmers Only. And this was before TikTok and all the things. And so me and Mom are singing it, and it's terrible, but it's really funny. It's still on my Facebook, but that's one of my probably most funny moments.
It's real. It's nature. I mean, it's just how it is.
They're in love.
So what does your breeding program look like in the next 10 years?
So that's where we really want to grow the most. And God kind of really worked some things out. I had been watching some of the sales online and starting to learn some of the genetic bloodlines and things like that. And I kind of just sat back for a year and just wondered. And we decided, I had found a lady in Clinton, and her husband had passed away in December, and she had posted a bull for sale that was a drag iron grandson. And he looked pretty close to what I'd been watching for, and he had some age on him. But I went and met her and visited with her, and we ended up bringing that bull and a cow home, and they both have really great genetics. So we're going to run him for a year or so and kind of build that out, but also looking to replace that bull with something else pretty stellar. But I feel like we've got really good cows. And as John told me first thing out of the gate, that's the base of your program, is your genetics with your mama cows. So that's kind of where we're headed now, and starting to learn still very early, because like I said, that was in January. So here we go.
Do you feel like you both have the same taste in terms of characteristics that you look for in your breeding program?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
So
we were different colors and different, but
yeah,
I got a calf that she won't sell me right now.
Oh, she wants it so bad. She wants it so bad. Well, I'll give you this much. I'll give you this much. I'm like, why are you? So I told my husband the other day, I said, that's the coveted little heifer right there. That's the one my sister covets.
She's on our page. It's Lady Sparkles. But yeah, she came out. It was the most drastic color change that I think I've watched the whole time we've been doing this. But anyway, she's adorable.
How did she change?
She went from being like red and white, and it just got darker and darker, and now she's black and white. So, and she's got like speckles and dots on her face.
Yeah,
she's
really
cute.
Neat.
She's pretty loud.
Looks like some kind of a constellation, the way her dots are. I probably ought to sell it to her, but I think it's funny that she'll send me pictures. When are you going to sell it to me? I'll give you this much money. It's ours. You know, it might be mine, but it's ours. It doesn't matter.
So who are some Longhorn cows out there that, you know, you guys kind of strive to, you know, breed in your programs? You would love to be, you know, where they're at.
So at the legacy sale, I really liked the horseshoe J and S. And it was really the look, and she kind of still has that old school twist. And we have a couple of cows that are that way. And so I really liked her a lot. And then I also like some of the, mermaid genetics. So I don't have those in the herd yet, but I would like to add them at some point. We would like to.
I'm just here to take care of the animals. So she can do all the genetics and stuff, but she keeps up with that.
She wants me to just be an advisor.
Yeah.
What about kind of a bull you aspire to have in your breed?
Oh, so that's a little bit more difficult, but I do like Backfired Love because he looks so much like Al. He's got a little bit more speckle and brindle than Al did. Al was black and white and then had the red line back and a red tuft of hair on top. So I really like Backfired Love.
He was pretty. Oh, Al was pretty.
Yeah. We have his hide.
Yeah. I use it for my shows. If I go set up somewhere to promote my trail rides or beef, he's my tablecloth.
That's another funny story too.
Oh man.
Okay, now we got to hear it.
Well, it's hard to find people that tan without costing a total fortune. So Mom and Ari decided they were going to bring it home and do it themselves.
How'd that go?
Well, I had called around to some different tanners and actually found a place in California. So it was cheaper to ship him all the way to California to have him tanned than somewhere, you know, kind of close by. Of course, this has been years ago. But anyway, so we bring home this big old heavy hide, and I had him laid out in the barn, and I was trying to go in there and cut the little bitty pieces of meat that were left. I didn't know what I was doing. So actually now looking back, the butcher did an excellent job of, I don't know what you call it, but, you know, stripping the hide off and not damaging it. And he already got most of the meat off, but I was sitting there trying to be, it's got to be super clean. You know, they're not going to take it, blah, blah, blah. What a process. Oh my gosh. I thought, a bag of salt will do it. No, I had to resalt it and, you know, clean the salt off like the wet salt and put more salt. Oh my gosh. Talk about a project. And it was heavy. I don't know how long it took. But anyway, so we finally got him to where he was pretty dried out and ready to go. And so I rolled him up and we shipped him off to California and got him back. But yeah, no, I won't do that again.
Never again, huh?
It was a lot of work. So if there's anybody out there that listens to this and you're a tanner, you guys work really hard. But you know, it made a story for us. So, but he was that special. He was that pretty and that nice of a bull that we wanted to put that extra effort in saving. So it's crazy that you can get these hides bought in the store for, you know, $200, $300, $400. But then to have ours done, it was like a lot more than that. But I learned it's from, I just won't say where they're from. Another country. They get a lot of those hides from a different country, so they can get them a whole lot cheaper. And some of those countries, they have these natural waters that they just got to put them in and kind of roll them around, and something in those waters tans it for them in some way. And I haven't researched that in a long time, but anyway.
Interesting. Well, is there anything else before we kind of switch gears and talk a little bit about your new website? Is there anything else about your breeding program that you want to share?
We're going to do our best to put the best quality genetics and demeanors out for whatever we have going forward, and look forward to meeting and learning from all the greats.
I thought of a story. So real quick, I was I don't know if I was jogging or walking, but I was probably just walking from my house to Mom's house. And I was just sitting there walking along, and Belle was standing there, and I go, oh my God. And she was having a calf, and I just look over, and all of a sudden it shoots out and hits the ground. It scared me. I was like, oh my gosh. So I was sitting here thinking, Longhorns are nice because you don't have to help them birth because their calves are so small. They just slide right out. But that's what made me laugh. I was thinking about that, and I thought about Belle. I think she was a Safari Bee, wasn't she?
Belle was from Safari Bee.
And I'm just walking. I look over, and all of a sudden this calf shoots out, and it scared me. But
well, you can take credit at least, right? Like all the hard work it took to bring it right, spin it that way a little bit. So tell us a little bit about your new website. What was the thought process behind the design and the content and all of that?
So I had to sit on that and look at a lot of the other hired hand sites before I could pick the colors and all that. And I don't know how many I looked through, but you can probably run a data analysis on that. It was probably almost all of them. And so I did. I looked at a lot of people's sites and how they were structured and what I liked and didn't like. And a lot of that's just preference and taste. And then when we picked some colors, we already had a logo and some good photos that we liked together. And so really it was just picking the ones that worked with the design the best. And so I think we did pretty good with that. And so once we had the samples back, the three of us, me, Mom, and Ari, got together and decided which we liked the best. And it was funny because we all agreed on the same one.
Yeah.
So that made it easy.
That's awesome. That probably doesn't happen that frequently, right?
No.
So if I looked through your search history, like you mentioned, what would the last 3 Longhorns be that you looked at?
Oh, man, I look at so many. It's hard to retain that. There's one.
3 ranches, maybe. How about that?
Okay, so Whistling Texas Longhorn, and she has a heifer that I kind of think I might want, and so I've been looking at it all the time. And I look at John's page, H&H Cattle Company, quite often, and then I do also look at Mike and Linda Metcalf's. I have never met them, but I cannot wait. I really like and admire their operation, and I really like their page. Oh, and then 3P Ranch. Barb. I just love their colors, and it just looks really great. So.
And do you ever go through and look at the websites, or does that part not interest you?
I just haven't. I wouldn't. It doesn't interest me. I just haven't. So
she owns and runs the local newspaper, and then has the stables too. So she does it pretty busy. Yeah. Her free time's limited, but when I get off work from my real job and come back to this forever job, I'm always like, hey, look at this cow. Mom, what do you think about this one? And they're just probably rolling their eyes. But it's funny. It's nonstop. My husband just is, both our husbands are great and they help a lot, and our dad too. But yeah, I'm constantly making somebody look at a cow.
And at the beginning of the podcast, you all mentioned that, Marcy, you kind of are more hands-on than you used to be with promotion and social and those sorts of marketing, those sorts of things. What is your go-to social media that you see the best results from?
So we really only utilize Facebook, and I probably need to move to Instagram at some point, but that's what I'm familiar with and know. So
yeah, me as well. I have an Instagram for my trail rides, but I don't. It's a lot to learn because, golly, we started out with MySpace a long time ago. And I ain't got Facebook, Instagram. I don't know what even WhatsApp is, and I'm going, how many different media? We want to keep it simple. I guess it's because we're getting old, so we're like, changing, just holy smokes. But, so I don't know, Facebook does okay. It's just too much. Why do you got to have it? All these different platforms. Yeah. It's crazy.
Can you imagine having to try to market Longhorns on MySpace?
Oh man.
So one of the questions was how did you go about finding your first Longhorn? Well, back then it was the newspaper.
Mhm.
That was all you had, and then later it was Craigslist. But anyway,
Good old Craigslist.
here we are.
Yep.
And I think anything I've found so far has been on websites or Facebook.
Yeah.
They're probably like us. We're gonna do one platform and that's it. We're not messing with. We got cows to feed. We got fence to fix.
More important things, right?
Yeah.
Do you use Facebook for the beef as well, or do you okay? So you use it for both.
Mm-hmm. And we run them both off the same page.
So any advice for other folks who are thinking of separating it or keeping them together? Any lessons learned from that part of it?
So far it has been manageable, but we're pretty new into the sales side and the futurity side. But just do what works for you. That would be my best advice. Whatever works for you and you can manage successfully, that's going to be your best bet.
Kind of that same theme as before, right? Just start with what you have, do what you can, as long as you're doing something.
Yep.
Well, I feel like I've learned a lot from you all today. Is there anything else about your website, your marketing, your breeding program, anything we didn't cover that you want to go over?
So, I was real hesitant at first on the website, and I called and asked probably you 100 questions. And I wrote them all down, and I would come back like once a week and review it. But looking back, I probably should have just jumped in because it was that easy. And the software behind the webpage is so easy to keep up. And one showing of how to do things, and we were off the ground, it was done. So very quick, very easy. Don't hesitate. Just if you're thinking about it, just jump in.
That's the one piece, right? It kind of contradicts the do what you can, but but also jump in and don't be afraid, right?
Yeah. Well, with hired hand, because that was easy. I mean, it really was, and I think it has taken our business to another level. So
when I first started doing trail rides here at the ranch, I designed the website myself. Lots and lots of hours. I mean, so if you can get someone to build it for you, do it. So when I had my website redesigned, I went ahead and paid, I think I went through GoDaddy, but I went ahead and paid them. Yeah, it was kind of expensive. But when you consider what it costs for someone to build your website versus you doing it yourself, be ready to put aside hours and hours and hours because it's a lot of work building a website. So I won't do that again either.
Just call hired hand. And I do love that once you get your animals in there, you get the family history. You get that pedigree, progeny. It's all there. And you can instantly research an animal. So that's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. So people to just go with it and let hired hand handle it.
Well, that's what we like to do. So thank you for letting us.
Oh, absolutely. It's been a great partnership.
Yeah. And it's a lot of work. So you guys do awesome.
Thank you. I'll be sure to pass that along to Angie too. So
perfect. Yeah. She was a great trainer.
Good. All right. Well, thank you both so much for joining us today. We'll link your website and some of the other animals and ranches that you mentioned in the show notes so folks can find them easily. But yeah, thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having us.